Is that ready?
Go.
Okay. So, hi, Andrea. You asked me to send a message for the teachers and the parents and the kids with Tourette syndrome. So, just a brief summary, like as you asked. As you know, I'm a general surgeon. Most of my work has been in trauma surgery and a lot of cancer surgery over the years, although I've retired now, and I'm for the last number of years I've been teaching the anatomy program for the University of Calgary Medical School. So with regard to Tourette syndrome, and the thing that I would like to say to the parents, to the teachers, and particularly the children that have this, is that a lot of what you do, the tics, the obsessions and compulsions where you feel like you have to check things 20 times before doing it or have everything just set up just perfectly, all of these things that you feel compelled to do or that you cannot control, like the tics, whether they're motor tics like the twitching of my shoulder like I'm doing, or vocal tics, grunting or clearing your throat or that sort of thing. These are not voluntary. You cannot help it on your own, and it's not your fault. I think probably the single most important thing I could say to all the children, the teachers, the parents, is that the various manifestations of Tourette syndrome are not volitional. The kids are not doing this to irritate you or to spite you or to be nasty, and they're not doing it on purpose. This is a neurological abnormality in the development and maturation of the circuits in the brain that haven't formed and developed correctly. We don't know much about why this happens, but we can do something about it. So, to use an analogy or use something that everybody would understand, sure, the kids when they have tics and obsessions and a whole variety of symptoms of Tourette's, they're teased and they're laughed at and whatever, because the other people that don't know about Tourette syndrome think it's funny and strange, and they don't understand unless you tell them and explain to them that this is a neurological disease, a neurobiological disease. It's not their fault. They were born with it. And just as no one would laugh at a kid that, say, has a cast on from a broken arm or a broken leg, or no one would laugh at a kid that has to have a needle, an injection of insulin for diabetes, or needs an injection of epinephrine for an allergy. Those are things that are visible, and everybody understands that. It's easy to understand. Why it's different with Tourette syndrome is that the people that are laughing at the kids or the teachers and parents that are getting angry at the kids for the abnormal behaviors that they have, whether it's obsessions or whether it's the ADHD that many of the children have, where they are unfocused, they're not compliant, they're impulsive, they don't take orders very well, they easily get upset, and they sort of break down into a tantrum for the most minor thing. All of these things that are manifestations in varying degrees with Tourette syndrome, the outside person can't see this. They can't look into the brain and see the abnormalities, but we can with the MRIs and particularly functional MRI and the various other scans, PET scans, positron emission tomography scans. We can see, the physicians can see what's at fault with the neuronal connections in the brain, and so I think that, and by virtue of that, there are medications and behavioral therapies that can be carried out to improve these symptoms considerably. I think probably the most important thing to get across to the teachers, the parents, and particularly the children is Number one, they're not alone. There are many kids that have varying degrees of Tourette syndrome. And I think the most important thing to emphasize to them is it is not their fault. They're not doing this voluntarily. They're not doing it to irritate anybody. It's not their fault, and I guess how else would I say it? Well, it's not their fault, and they're it's something that is usually inborn, actually, abnormality, which fortunately for many of the kids they'll outgrow, or it'll disappear or become much less in their teens or in their 20s. Not everybody, but by far the majority get better with time, because the neurological manifestations, the neuronal connections in the brain actually develop later and mature later, so that the symptoms often improve considerably and may even disappear completely. You can't guarantee that, but in the meantime, there are ways and methods to treat it, and that probably one of the best things that the children can do, and the parents, is not to try to hide it from other people, because you can't hide these things. It's very hard to hide all these various symptoms. But the best thing that can do is to explain to the other children, those that are teasing your kids, that no, this is a legitimate illness, or I guess in a way it's a disability, but it's no different it's no different from having a disability from a broken arm, or from having diabetes, or having some other illness that you can see evidence of, like say a cast on a child's leg, or they need a wheelchair. You never laugh at those people, because you understand what's happening. There's something wrong, and it wasn't their fault. They didn't do it, or they didn't cause it. And it's the same with Tourette syndrome. The symptoms are not their fault. They didn't. The symptoms are not their fault, and they're not doing it just to irritate people. It's beyond their control, and it's helped. There are good medications and behavioral therapies that can help it, and mostly it's a matter of as best as one can be, and it's difficult sometimes, is for everybody, especially teachers and parents, to be non-judgmental, to understand that the kids are doing their best, and they're not, it's not their fault that they are like they are. So I hope that this type of information will help at least allow the kids to be better accepted, and both by parents, teachers, and their friends and their peers, so they can get along in the world, and that if they can understand what's happening, then they're much more amenable, and they're much more receptive, and much more sympathetic to what's happening, just in the same way that they would be sympathetic to a child who can't walk because of paralysis, or can't walk because he has a broken leg or something like that. I think those are the important things to understand and explain. Okay. I think that's going to work. I hope so. Was there anything else I was going to say? That's good enough anyway. Does it go? Well, I can do it again, but I want to go